Welcome to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. If you're on a mission to be more frugal with both your time and money, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about topics that help enhance living a frugal lifestyle. The goal is to save time and money where we can so that we can use the rest on what matters most to us. We talk a lot about both time and money management so that we can waste as little as possible on both. We do this while also embracing a progress over perfection mindset. If that sounds good to you, then please stick around for the latest episode right after a few quick words from our sponsor. Hi everyone, welcome back to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. Today I wanted to talk about 5 ways that frugality has positively impacted my life. And I thought this would be a good topic to just kind of have like a nice light episode that I could just kind of talk about because it doesn't really require me to do a whole lot of research to think of ways that frugality has positively impacted my life. And I was trying to think of a topic I could do that I could just kind of talk about without having to have too many notes or do too much research on the things that I wanted to say, because I am still trying to get ready for Christmas. I'm mostly ready, but I just still have all that last minute stuff to do, and this episode will come out the day after Christmas, but when I'm recording it, it's not quite Christmas yet. So I'm in that last week before Christmas. I still have some wrapping to do, making sure I have all the ingredients for our meals and desserts and all that kind of stuff. So I'm running around doing grocery pickups and who's out of stock with this and what do I need to make sure I pick up and all that kind of last minute holiday stuff. So, but as always, I always want to make sure I have an episode come out on Monday because I have never missed an episode yet since I started. And while I know that it's not necessary, if I really need a break, I could take a break. But since I've never missed a Monday, I don't want to miss a Monday yet. I hope to not ever have to miss a Monday. So I was trying to think of a topic that I could just speak about, that's something I really love to talk about, and that is frugality and how it has positively impacted my life. So frugality, a lot of times when people think about frugality, they think of it as kind of being restrictive of yourself and, not allowing yourself to do things and, kind of always being on a budget, but budget in a bad way, not like budget how I think of a budget, which is like, I love the budget. I love to see if I have it in the budget and I make sure I put things in the budget. But more like budgeting as if it's in a bad way and, you're not allowing yourself to enjoy life and, you're kind of being cheap, which is not being frugal. Being frugal is really just about making the most of all of your resources. And like I say in the intro to the show, I have since grown to look at that as both time and money. It started out with managing my money, learning a lot about, we had tried for so many years to get out of debt, and then we finally did. But as part of that growing process and trying to figure out how to make that happen, I started listening to Dave Ramsey and I started listening to Frugal Friends and I started listening to all these different money podcasts and reading things and reading books and just really trying to learn about how to kind of change to make things change. And I came across frugality and I just loved it because I thought this is exactly what I need to do. I really need to spend more time thinking about the money and the resources that we have and being more careful about what we're doing with them and making sure that we're doing the best things that we can with them and getting the most value out of what we have available to us. So, that's my vision or my thoughts about frugality is this great thing where you make sure you take everything that you have, your time and money, and you use it in the best way you can. It's not about, not enjoying life and keeping yourself in this really strict budget where, you won't spend money on anything that's not a necessity. And it's totally not like that. But anyway, so we all know what frugality is. So 5 things that I can think of, 5 ways that frugality has positively impacted my life. Number 1, Contentment and gratitude. Like, I feel like just naturally part of living a frugal life, you just become more content and grateful for the things that you have. You know, you think about the money that you've put into things, and I don't mean this in a way like that you want to keep things that aren't useful to you, but I find for me, I tend that I want to make things last more. Like, once I've made a decision to put my money into something, I want to really like take care of it and hope that it lasts and get like the most value out of it. And just kind of looking at the things that we have, and rather than saying, oh, this table has a little bit of a wobbly leg, we better go out and buy a new table because we have to have a perfect table, even if we don't have the money for it, even if it means putting it on a credit card. No, it's not like that. I'll look at the table and say, okay, well, yeah, it's all right. It's working right now. What can we do to kind of make it last a little bit longer? And if we can't, how can we save up for this? Where can we cut? What are we saving up for now that maybe we could put aside that we can, replace this table with? Or just saying, hey, we just don't have the money for it right now. This is functioning. And when we get around to it, when it becomes a priority, then we will replace the table. So, and I'm using table as an example because I feel like we're always on the verge of needing a new table. I don't know why. I think my kids are just too rough when they sit down in chairs and sit at the table. But it's really kind of just that, like, looking at the things that you have and appreciating them for the value that they give you. So I definitely feel like since I started practicing frugality, and I don't know if it's just because of the nature of the people who kind of talk about these things, if those are also values that they hold and it just like naturally kind of gets brought to your attention more. But I definitely feel like I've been more mindful of being content with the things that I have and being grateful for the things that I have, and just kind of looking around at things and being grateful that we have our home, that we have our yard, and like flowers that are in our backyard, and just everything, just being so grateful and being so content with all of the things that we have. And of course, still wanting more things and wanting new things, but being really thoughtful about those and making sure that we are not going to put ourselves in a bad position just to constantly get more and better things. The second thing that I can think of is that I feel like being frugal has made me more resourceful. Like in the past, if, like I said with the table, like if something would have been like not perfect, or it needed it seemed like it needed to be replaced, rather than trying to find another alternative, maybe a different way to use that item, or a way to just like make it look a little bit nicer for now, or maybe repair something ourselves, like trying to see if we could fix something. We would just pay to have something new or to get it repaired, and we didn't necessarily have the money for it. We just didn't ever really think of alternatives that much. We just kind of did what everybody else does, and we didn't really think like, well, is there another way? Do we have to do it this way? Is there anything else we can do? Can we replace it with something else? Do we really even need this anymore? So we really take a lot more time to think about what we do when we need something. Like, what other ways can we handle the situation? Even like with food, like with cooking. In the past, if I was making a recipe and I didn't have the ingredient, I'd be like, oh great, I can't make this recipe now. Now I'm like, what do I have in my cabinets that can kind of serve the same purpose? Oh, I'm making mac and cheese. Well, I only have half of the cheddar cheese that I need. Oh well, I'll mix it with the other half mozzarella and it'll be just fine. It'll be edible. Like, I will make choices now that I probably wouldn't have made in the past to kind of make things work, so that I'm not running out to buy extra cheddar cheese when that mozzarella is probably going to go to waste if I don't use it because it's already in the fridge and defrosted. And so I definitely feel like living a frugal life has helped me become a more resourceful person. Number 3 is definitely that I have become way less stressed about money. I've learned about emergency funds and sinking funds and gotten much, much better at budgeting. Having an emergency fund has been a lifesaver. We have had so many emergencies in the last year since we saved up our fully funded emergency fund, which is no longer fully funded. I think it's less than half at this point, and we're trying really, really hard to refund it again. But unfortunately, every time we get a little bit to put back in, we've had other emergencies that keep happening, which thankfully we've had some money to pay those with, but the money's not going back into the emergency fund yet. However, had we not had that emergency fund, we would have been in debt again. So even though there was some stress to having to pull money out of the emergency fund, because it's so frustrating when you work so hard to build up that emergency fund and then you have to use it. But it was still so much less stressful to have an emergency fund to pull money out of to cover these emergencies that had come up, than if I had to put it on a credit card and then figure out later how we had to pay for it. So emergency fund has been huge in reducing stress about money. Sinking funds are probably my absolute favorite financial tool that I have learned since becoming more frugal, like starting to really focus on living a frugal lifestyle. Sinking funds, if you're not familiar, is just a method of putting money aside every week or every month or whatever period you use to save up for things. And it seems so obvious, but it was never obvious to me. And every time I would have an annual fee due, or I would have the dog's annual vet bill, or whatever, these unusual expenses that don't occur on a regular weekly or monthly basis, I would always come in over budget because I was never prepared for those. I budgeted for all of our regular income and our regular expenses like groceries and gas and things that happen every week or every month, but I never really had a method of those other unusual expenses, and I would just kind of feel like somehow I would have the money for them when they came, and I never did. And it would always throw me over budget. You know, whether it was buying school supplies for the kids, or like I said, that annual vet visit for the dogs, or needing to buy gifts for birthday parties. I never had any method of covering those. And once I learned about how to utilize sinking funds to save up for those things so that there's always money being put aside so that when those expenses come up, I have the money there for it, I was always over budget. And that finally helped me get things under control, where I was taking money each week that needed to be saved for those future expenses and saving it rather than spending it on who knows what and then finding out I had no money for these things when they came up. So emergency funds, sinking funds, and just kind of modifying my budget over time and really looking at what we're spending our money on and being more mindful has drastically reduced stress caused by money. Another thing, I think this is my number 4, my fourth way that I thought of that frugality has positively impacted my life is I have definitely become less wasteful. So I would never consider myself a wasteful person. I just am not. I have never really been wasteful, especially with food. I think it's probably my grandmother. I don't know, but I think maybe it was how my grandmother, because we lived next door to my grandmother when I was a kid. And I feel like it might have been from her, but honestly, I don't even really remember. But I just have this thing about wasting food that just kills me. I hate to waste food. I can't stand when food gets cooked and then doesn't get eaten. So I'm definitely not wasteful in that way, purposefully. Sometimes still, because of poor planning, food would get wasted, produce would get thrown out, things like that. But through living a frugal life and really being more mindful of when I'm purchasing food, meal planning, making sure I use things before they go bad, planning to use up leftovers, planning to freeze them if I need to, taking them for lunches, doing whatever I need to use up everything that we have. I have definitely made progress for sure in wasting less food than I may have in the past, because I just didn't really fully know how to prepare and plan to make sure we didn't have food that wasn't going to get eaten. And definitely even with things like paper towels and just kind of other things that I am less wasteful with. Like, for example, we started using cloth napkins and rags for cleaning, where in the past I would use paper towels. I do still keep paper towels, a roll on the in our kitchen, because for us anyway, it doesn't work to always have like rags for certain things. Like if a dog gets sick on the floor, I know that's gross, but whatever. I don't feel comfortable using like a rag and washing it and then using it again. I don't know. I know the washing machine works pretty good, but it's still, some things are just gross to me, and I use paper towels for stuff like that. So, but because we switched to generally using napkins, like cloth napkins and rags for cleaning, it is definitely way cut back on the amount of paper towels we're using. We used to go through them like crazy. And then I also save, this sounds like kind of extreme, but it's really not, honestly. I save paper towels. Like, for example, sometimes my kids will tear off like this huge thing of paper towels, and I swear there'll be like a dot of water on it. They'll use it for like a little spill that maybe took up like a dot of the paper towel, and there's like 4 other sections that weren't even touched. I will save those and I put them under my kitchen sink, and I use them to clean the guinea pig cage. I don't use them like to wipe my face or anything like that, but I'll use them to clean our guinea pig cage. So it's just, I'm cleaning like a dirty cage with it anyway. It doesn't really matter, but it's less paper towels than I would have used if I had just thrown those ones away that the kids kind of just like half used and then would like just left on the counter or whatever. I use less than if I had taken new ones, and they do accumulate because almost every time I go to clean our guinea pig cage, I very rarely ever have to use new ones from the roll. I usually always have a little stash from those ones that weren't really even necessary to have taken so much for whoever pulled them out. So just little things like that. Like, I definitely feel like I have gotten less wasteful in how I use products, and really trying to make sure I use them up as much as we can, food and products. And then the last number 5, the number 5 item on my list, ways that frugality has positively impacted my life, is definitely being more mindful about the use of time. So like I said before, frugality to me has definitely gone from really just being focused on money to being focused on money and time. And I feel like I have gotten so much better now with really being mindful about the use of my time and making sure that I am making the best of my time, doing the things that I enjoy, doing the work that I want to do, and really kind of planning out my time so that I am accomplishing what I want to accomplish, and that I'm taking time to do the things that I enjoy, even if I don't have a lot of time. Like, for example, today on my lunch break, there were a few things that I wanted to do. I wanted to read a little bit. I wanted to work on a Christmas puzzle that I'm working on. And then I did need to do a little bit of time updating my checking. So what I did is I just set a timer for 15 minutes, because I didn't really have that much time to do all of them, but I did 15 minutes for each one. So even though I only took 15 minutes to work on the puzzle, which was like the most enjoyable part that I was going to do on my lunch break, I still made that time. If I would have just said, oh, I really don't have that much time, it's not worth it, I probably could have just sat on my phone scrolling Facebook or deleting emails or whatever else. But instead, I took 15 minutes and I really enjoyed working on that puzzle as part of my lunch break. So even just like the little bits of time, you can get things done. You can enjoy your time. Whatever it is that you want to do with the time that you have, I feel like by really thinking about your time in the same way that you think about your money and making sure you're using it as best as you can definitely find more little pockets of time in your day where you can do things that you want to be doing rather than kind of always feeling like you just don't have the time for what you'd like to do. I'm not saying there's huge amounts of time, but usually you can spend at least a little bit of time getting some of those things done that you would really like to be working on, or even just doing some things that you enjoy. So that's it. Those are my 5 ways that frugality has positively impacted my life. I know that there's definitely more, but I just wanted to keep it to 5 because I don't want to make this a really long episode. I'm already close to going on 20 minutes here, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope everyone had a great holiday, and I really hope everybody has an awesome new year. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you back here next week. So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode. And don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. And you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast. Those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.